I have a terrible memory. Okay, we're recording. So what's the weather there?
You know, it's been rainy for the last 3 days.
When do you start getting into winter, or do you really?
I feel like it's different every year. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's later.
Yeah. Well, in Arizona, we have the opposite. We have 4 months of terrible summer, 120 degrees, that sort of thing. And just starting right about this time, mid-October, is when it gets gorgeous. So it's supposed to be, I think, 70 something degrees today and sunny and beautiful. And it'll be that way for the next 8 months. And then we go back to summer again.
That's wonderful.
But we don't have that white stuff on the ground ever. So that's good. Probably ruined my tennis game. So do we have everybody on that we need? Or are we still waiting on a few?
I think we might be waiting on just a few. Let me send a quick message out.
Okay.
Okay, Fred, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so I think our plan today was to walk through the strategic plan and entering the strategic plan in the system, going through all those steps. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started there. Let's see. So looking at your 2021 strategic plan, let's go ahead and we'll go down here a little bit and get started with vision, mission, and values. So I'm going to take you into the system here to start with. We've already kind of put those in for you. But the interesting thing, vision, mission, values are typically at the department level all the way down. However, sometimes you'll have different, the values typically are always the same. The vision is typically the same. The mission statement is kind of how you're going to accomplish the vision. So sometimes, for instance, emergency preparedness might have a different mission statement than would WIC or somebody else, what they're actually doing to accomplish the vision of the department. So clicking on the vision, mission, and values tab, we put in your vision statement from your document right down here. The mission statement, and then the values. And in the values, you just had helping, serving, and protecting. And I just you have an abbreviation down here, and then you also have, kind of a bigger description. Feel free to go in and edit these as needed. But typically I just put in, helping, and in this case, helping our community, serving our community, protecting our community would be good values. Now, the nice thing about vision, mission, values is that you can copy them down to subgroups. So up here, we're at the department level. I go down to the strategic plan group, which is under the department. You can see it actually reports up to the department down here. I can copy that complete vision, mission, and values down. And then, for instance, if I wanted to edit the mission statement, I could do that. So I'm going to go down to strategic plan. I'll look at the vision, mission, and values. And you can see I've already copied it down. So what I'll do is I'll go down to the next group down, which would be the CHA. And the CHA is also reporting up to the department. So I'm going to go to, vision, mission, and values, hit this little button over here, the copy button. And it's going to ask me if I want to do that. And sure enough, so it just copied them right down for me. So at this point, then I could go in here if I wanted to and edit the mission statement for the particular group if you choose to, and hit the save button. So that's pretty easy. So that's kind of step number one usually. Back at the strategic plan level. So let's go into your strategic plan. Now, as I was, right past it here. As I was looking at your strategic plan, I looked at a couple of potential ways to enter it. I think the one that we started with here makes the most sense, so I'm going to walk you through that. So let me go back and take you through the pyramid one more time, just so we understand the hierarchy we work with. Okay, so at the top, the organization is your health department. Underneath that are the groups, and the groups are the high-level plans, like the Fab 6 packet plans, as well as the divisions, offices, and programs. So if we go back and look at your groups here, you have the 6 packet plans up at the top up here. Down here, then you have accounting, accreditation, Fab accreditation plan is in there, clinical, community outreach, et cetera. The groups are hierarchical. So you can see right now, everything reports up to the department. So if I click on any of these, it's going to show me the parent group being the department, with the exception of Fab reaccreditation plan is under the group called accreditation. And you'll see down here, it's reporting up to accreditation. So, and that's just a drop down. You just pick a group out of there that you report to, hit the save button, and you're done there. So if I wanted to copy down the vision, mission, and values from, I'd have to copy them to accreditation first from the department, and then go down to reaccreditation plan and copy them from accreditation. So it's got to be the next group up when you're copying. Pretty simple. Okay, so this is the groups screen here. Now each group, if I go back to the pyramid here, each group then has a set of services and initiatives. In your strategic plan, these are what you guys call your strategic priorities in here. So going back to the system, we'll look under the group that we've selected, strategic plan, for the services initiatives, staff support. And these are the 7 strategic priorities that you guys decided on. Now, there's 2 options in here, and it's really a very, very minor thing. And that is, you can call them initiatives that you want. A lot of times in strategic plans, they're called initiatives because they're something you're trying to accomplish in the future. It's not a daily thing. So in order to do that, all I got to do is click on this guy and then save it. And you'll see the little check mark shows up over here. And then what that does is in the reports and things like that, it names it as an initiative. So the thought process is this something we're doing on a daily basis or something we're going to be accomplishing in the future? So you might want to, and you guys can make that decision, go through here and mark all of these as initiatives. That would be the norm in here. But things that are doing on a daily basis, you might leave them as services. But again, it's just nomenclature more than anything. So under staff support is our first initiative in this case. Go back to the plan. So at the planning model level, so under each service, you have a set of goals. Under each goal, a set of objectives. Under each objective, a set of activities. So your plan laid out pretty well that way. So what we did is took the, so strategic priority, I broke this down into 2 different things. Because you didn't really have a set of goals in here, I broke it down as staff support as the strategic priority. And then down to the goal level was this right here. Develop a culture of resiliency to support staff and leadership by December 31st, 24. Now this is maybe a little specific for a goal with the date in there. Typically goals are a little less specific than that, and the dates come down to be in the objectives. So you might have a bunch of objectives that build up to that December 31st, 2024, but by no means is it wrong to have it in there. It's just typically we see that at the objective, the SMART objective level in here. So we have staff support as the priority. We have develop a culture as the goal, and then you can see the objectives that we have underneath there. So underneath this particular goal, we're going to have a set of objectives. And you can see we have the 6 of them that were down there. And basically is all I did is copy and paste. Now, there's a little bit of a uniqueness. Instead of being able to right click and copy and right click and paste, you can right click and copy in here, but the easiest way that I find to do it is using keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to take you down. We've already entered the first 2 in here, and they're all going to be the same format. So let me take you down to service number 3, cross-functional collaboration. I'll go look at the goal. So we have number 3. Okay, cross-functional collaboration. Then we have nurture our strong culture by cross-functional collaboration across departments. I go down to here. That's the goal that we put in there. So now we're at the goal level. underneath this goal, we're going to have a set of objectives. You notice we don't have any in there at this point in time. So I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to grab this first one. I'm just going to highlight it. On my keyboard, I'm going to hit Control C for copy. I could also, right click and copy if I want to. But for me, it's always just easier because I'm going to go back and forth, Control C, Control V. So I hit Control C. I'm going to go back over to here. I can either hit the plus button here, or it's not going to let me enter anything until I hit the plus button. So if I hit the plus button, it opens up these fields. My objective number is 1 because there's none in there. Control V, so I just pasted it in there. So Control C is copy, Control V is paste. Now, and you kind of have to use the keyboard shortcuts in here because there is no right click on these particular fields. It's a long story, but it'll be at some point in time we'll have that back in there. But right now it's just a keyboard shortcut of Control V. And at that point, I'm going to save it. So you pretty much always, when you're done with anything, you're going to save it and just make sure that it's tagged into the database. So at this point in time, then we have that first objective in there. Let's go back and grab the next objective. So I'm going to, again, highlight it, Control C, get back over to here. I'm going to add a new one. So I hit the plus button again. In this field, Control V. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's just go ahead and finish up the objectives for this one here. So I'm going to grab this, Control C, go over here, hit the plus button again, Control V. So it's a real simple process to go back and forth. And literally, I do these all the time, and it takes me, half hour, an hour to put in an entire strategic plan because it's just, again, going back and forth, and it's meant to do exactly that. Control C, plus button, Control V, and we're going to save that. So now we have the 4 objectives in there. The next step typically will be to assign the objective leads in here. So do you have folks that you would assign to this particular establish a core team to carry strategic plan activity steps prior to September 1? Do you have somebody that you would assign to that particular objective at this point in time?
Eric's a
little bigger.
This is Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
I think that's kind of where we are as a leadership team, trying to determine who is going to be assigned to which of these objectives.
So you don't have somebody right now that would be assigned to that?
You can plug in Lisa Marshall if you'd like.
Okay. So now we have Lisa in there. We save that. We're going to go ahead and just save it again. So now, Lisa, what this will do is you are the person designated to update this particular objective. So you're going to update the percent done and that sort of thing, add data source, that sort of thing. You will get an email notification when they go out, whatever time frame you guys schedule, to update this objective, let's say on a monthly basis, something along that line. So what you'll end up doing is going down for each of the objectives, assign the objective lead. The objective lead, again, is the person responsible for getting you to that target in there. So at this point in time, that's all there is to entering your plan. It's a very, very simple process. It's copy and paste, getting it in there, selecting the objective leads. So down to this point, are there any questions? Pretty simple?
Pretty simple. I don't think I have any right now, Fred.
Okay. Now we're going to get down a little deeper, and that's okay. So the objective is a target. So in this place, we have establish a core team to carry out our strategic plan activity steps prior to September 1, 21. Core team will meet monthly thereafter. That is a what. That's what we're going to accomplish. The question now becomes, how are we going to get there? What are the steps you're going to go through? It doesn't have to be many. It can just be one, actually. But there's going to be something you're going to do to establish a core team. How do you determine what those people are, or who the people are who are going to be on the core team? What are going to be the responsibilities of those people? When are they going to meet? How often are they going to meet? So that's what the activities are about down in there. Now, at the bottom of your plan down here, so basically you can go through and do exactly the same thing. I think I have the initiatives and the goals in for all of the 7 strategic priorities. So if you guys want to go through next and enter the objectives for all of those, just do the same thing. We just went through the copy and paste in all those. Now, if I get down to the bottom of your plan, you had a nice list of steps. And when I look at these, they're attached to priority. So these are probably, to some degree, these are the activities. Now, what I would think you probably have to do at this point, because for instance, you have a lobby questionnaire to gather feedback for issues in marketing established to two different priorities, number 2 and number 5. Activities need to be at the or under the objective level. So what you're going to want to be able to do if you're going to use these steps as activities is to actually be able to go through and assign them to the specific objectives. So not just to the priority, but to the objective. So looking at this one, lobby questionnaire to gather feedback for issues in marketing assigned to number 2. So let's go back and look at priority number 2, which is help our host community conversations. We have the goal in there, and then we have these objectives. So looking at these objectives, where do you think that particular, let me go back one more time to the step, lobby questionnaire. So creating a lobby questionnaire, where do you think that would fit under which of these particular objectives? Or it can go under multiple objectives.
I would think we could probably plug it under 4 for the time being.
Okay. So facilitate quarterly forum for community feedback and input. That sounds good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to grab that step. And we're probably going to want to maybe reword it just a little bit to make it as an action. So let's go back here. I'm going to go to the activity screen and hit that. I'm going to go ahead and paste that into here. That was not the right one. Go back here. There we go. So lobby. So in this case, what is this actually going to be, to create a lobby questionnaire or to have a lobby questionnaire? What would you make the action verb in here?
I would probably say create and distribute.
Okay. Gather feedback, issues, mark. Okay, that's great. Now, the next step in creating an activity, and to me, when you're creating something like this questionnaire, it's probably a project-based activity because it's not a repetitive thing. It's not a quantity thing. It's just something we're going to do, and we're going to be 0 or 100% done in this case. So the performance metric now is, the question is, how do I know when we've successfully completed that?
When it gets done.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly.
Kind of a yes, no.
When it's created and maybe distributed for some period of time or something along that line. You know, when do you feel that this would be a completed activity?
So if this is something quarterly, we would probably give it a couple months.
Okay, so distribution of questionnaire for 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. I could spell it 1 R, okay. Tell you what, my spelling's terrible. So distribution of the questionnaire for 3 months is when you know that you've completed the activity. So in this case, when would you want to start it?
Can we say January 1?
Yep, of 21 or 22?
22.
Okay. And how long are you going to do this? So I'm assuming that would be like March, the end of March maybe, because it's 3 months.
We're probably looking at a quarterly activity, so March.
Okay. go to the end of March. And then right now, we'll call it 0% done because we haven't really started. We're not to the start date yet. Okay, we're going to save that activity. Okay, so we have the first activity. The next step will be to assign team members. So I'm going to click here to get everybody again. Is there a particular group of people on here that would become the team to do this?
We plug in community outreach for this one.
So Lisa, are you thinking like, so like Catherine, Kayla, who else is in there? I think just the two of us.
Probably for the time being, yes.
So Kayla, Catherine, who else?
I think that's everyone from outreach on that list.
So who is going to, which of these two is going to be the lead of the two? Who's going to be driving the activity more?
You can put me down.
Okay. And then are you going to be the one who's going to update it through the email notification?
I can.
Okay. And we can also add, Catherine in there too, if you wanted to have both of you doing the email notification. But for now, we'll leave it as you in there. We'll go ahead and save that. Okay, so now we have the L indicates you're the lead, T indicates team member, and the blue L indicates the email notification. At this point in time, I'm pretty sure you don't have any partners in there. So once you get the partner database built, which is something that one of your administrators would do, you can build in, and you can add as you go, but put in the partners who might be associated with this particular activity. At this point, I would say there's probably, doesn't look like there'd be anybody external doing this. So it might not be an external partner. So that's the creation of the activity. It's a pretty simple process as you go through it. What you might want to do then is go back to your steps, and you got several of them that were under priority 2 here. So we got all of these under priority 2. So the next thing you might do is exactly the same thing we did. Go look at the objectives, say, okay, focus groups is going to be maybe even under the same objective, it sounded like. We put the focus group, we're going to word the activity as an action. So it is an activity. We're going to build a performance metric that says, how do I know when we've completed the focus groups in there? You're going to put a date range in there. If it's already started, you might mark it as partially completed, 25%, 50%, whatever. You're going to assign the team of people. So typically there's a lot of times there's one person who's a team, a lead, and an email notification. Sometimes you're going to have, like we did, you're going to have 2 or 3 people are the team members. A certain person's going to be the lead, and then somebody's going to do the email notifications. So does that look like something pretty simple to go through and do?
Yeah, I think so. I think the system will really help to kind of drive that operationalize our strategic plan. So
okay, now let me show you kind of a little trick that might help, because you have a lot of these. Like for instance, you have this first one we just did under priority 2 and 5, right? So we're going to go back over here, and this is the activity. So I've got the activity highlighted. I'm going to go hit this little copy button down here. So now you can see that the paste button next to it lights up. However, what I want to do is make a copy of this over in initiative 5. So you guys help me to determine which objective this would go on. Oops, we haven't put the, okay, I'm sorry. We haven't put the objectives in there yet. So, but what you could do is once you pick the objective, you go down to the activity level and you'll have this little button lit up. You can do that. It's going to copy exactly that same activity with the people, the dates, everything that you put in there. So it's just a simple way to, when you got, especially the way that you guys have it set up, where you have several places where you have activities in 2 different places. Just do it in one place, do the copy, paste, and you're all set. So let me go in just for the heck of it. For 5 is marketing. So look at these objectives and tell me which one do you think that activity we just created would go under the questionnaire. Try to make it a little bigger for you.
Thank you.
I would maybe say identify methods to communicate with groups not currently being reached
Okay, let's go ahead and
for
add
the
that.
time being. Yeah, for the time being anyways.
Yeah, and you can move these around. It's very simple. So we'll go ahead and put that in under number 5 here. So you can down see where it's service number 5, and I roll over, it says it's marketing, goal number 1. And this is what we call a cookie crumb down here. So it's always going to give you the rollovers so you can see where you are. Because sometimes it's like, the screen looks the same no matter where you are. So it just helps you to go down here and determine exactly where you are. So I've got this objective. I'm going to click down here, or I can click the plus button. I'm going to paste that in there. We won't sign an objective lead. You guys can go back and do that anytime. We'll save that. Now I'm going to go down to the activity level here and see my little button is lit up here. I'm going to click on that. Now, when you're copying it, you can either say just copy the flag over the red, yellow, green over. You can make it red or make it green. So we're just going to say copy it. And I think it was green already. So you'll notice it made an exact copy, including the team assignments, the dates, the whole 9 yards, and it added this copy at the end. So typically I'll just take and delete that, save it again. And so now we have that particular activity under the 2 different places. So that's a real simple process. And it just saves you typing a bunch of stuff. So that really is the process of taking your strategic plan from where it is, getting it into the system. It's a copy paste process, and then taking those activities, deciding which objectives they're going to go under, build out the activity a little bit to make it, again, an actionable thing. And that's about it. And then you're going to go in and assign the team leads. What I would probably want to do is go in and put in all of the objectives, maybe build out the activities, maybe wait until, doing the activities one at a time or something, but maybe build out the activities, figure out any other activities you might want to have in there. Like for instance, we go back and look at the steps. There were no steps that I could see for priority number 1. So you're still going to want to have some set of activities to get to that priority number 1. So it's an idea of just going through, and the question I always say is, here's my objective is my target. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. What are the things in more of a big picture? I don't want tasks in there. Tasks are too hard to track because you're going to get down and say, I'm going to create page number 1. I'm going to create page number 2. Nobody's ever going to keep that information up to date. Think of activities as things that could typically be measured and updated somewhere around a monthly level. That's kind of the level of the activity. If you get much below that, people got too many other things to do in this world to go in every day and update the tasks that they did. So think about, this is what I did in the last week or the last month as my activities. But try to think about the steps you're going to go through. And if you have let's say you have a time frame of a year to accomplish an objective, you might want to break the task down into monthly or quarterly or something like that with the dates. Say, the first thing we got to do is create the questionnaire and distribute it. After that, we have to analyze the results that we got. After we analyze the results, then we have to go in and make a plan to do that. And by the way, it may be a piece of this plan that you go in and add more activities to implement that plan. It doesn't have to be static. Once you enter this information, you can continually add to it as you go forth, and you'll be putting in dates and things like that. So that is really the whole process of entering a plan. And you got a nice plan to start with here. It just needs to be kind of reformatted into that pyramid, which you already have all the steps in there, so it's great. What else can I show you? That really is 90% of it right there. When we get the plan in there, then we'll go back and do a couple of things like setting up your strategic priority categories and that sort of thing. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do that right now. That's a simple process. So I'm going to go back up to our strategic priorities. Now, well, first of all, do you agree with the way that I formatted it using, for instance, staff report as the initiative and then this as the first goal? Is that copacetic? Does that work?
That works for us.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take staff support and I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to go up to my main menu and categories, subcategories. So what we have in here is, this is just for our little demo organization, but what I'm going to do is update the subcategories for strategic priorities to match your strategic priorities. So I'm just going to go in and highlight this guy and Control V, put in staff support, save it, go back over here. I'm going to grab the next one, and I'll show you what we'll do with that. Parallel copying, okay. Control C, because all I'm doing is copying and pasting them into the strategic priorities here. Save that. Go to the next one. Community Health Innovator. Control C. Go back over here. Control V. Marketing. Control C. Back over here. Oops. I think I forgot to, yeah, I forgot to move forward. Okay, I'm going to add a new one. Yep. Metrics. Control C. Over here. Save it. We have one more, don't we? Yep. Community health priorities. Control C, move back over here, add a new one. Yep. Control V. Okay. Okay, so now what we've done is updated your categories and subcategories. Now these are all a bunch, and there's lots of different things. All the fab domains and things are in here. You can edit and change any of these just like we did right here. Typically your strategic priorities, you want to leave those alone because those are going to be what we're going to distribute amongst all the plans in the system to see how they compare to your strategic plan. And I'll show you how we do that here. So I'm going to go back to your strategic plan. And just for now, I'm going to go ahead and tag staff support as a strategic priority. Now, what you're typically going to use this for is other plans, like, for instance, your CHIP. So you want to say, what are we doing in the CHIP that supports staff support? Now, there may not be a lot because of that particular one, but for instance, host community conversations. Let's use that one. That's a better example. So if in my CHIP I had something related to hosting community conversations, I want to tag that against our strategic plan so I can see how they compare. And what I would do, let's say we're in the CHIP now. I'll just go up to this little button right here, little up arrow, click on it. And I'm going to say under strategic priorities, I'm going to say host community conversations. And then I'm going to hit the save button. Now it's going to ask me, do I want to update the categories of the related goals, objectives, and activities? So remember, I'm up at the service level. Do I want to do everything below it as well? It just makes it an easy step. I'll say yes. So now you notice the little I in here indicates that we've prioritized or we've categorized it. And by the way, you can have as many of these in there as you want. So you can also do, for instance, you could do it against the FAB standards as well, tag all those things. This becomes really nice when you're using the strategic or the reaccreditation plan, be able to go in and tag these against your strategic plan as well as tag everything else that you're doing against the FAB domains and FAB standards. Because then when you go into the site review, in your case, a virtual site reviews for reaccreditation, you can go in and say, show me everything we're doing related to standard 1.1 or reaccreditation measure 1.1. And it'll show you everything across every plan in your system in one place. So now if I go down, go back here, and you'll notice if I go down to the goals here, the one goal, again, it's also categorized the same way, host community conversations, all the way down to the objective and the activity level as well. So that's what the categorization is about. Now we can go into a lot more detail once you get some plans in the system. I'll show you a lot of different ways to use that, but it really, that's that three-dimensional planning we call. Because think about having, let's say your FAB 6-pack of plans, you got them spread out on a table, right? You got length and width. So you got 2 dimensions in there. Now I want to look across all those plans and see where do we have gaps? Where do we have overlaps? Across all those plans, where do we support our first strategic priority? All those kind of questions you can answer by doing this three-dimensional planning. It really is a really nice tool to get a good view into what you're doing as an entire department. So that was pretty much the crux of what I wanted to go over today. Please ask me any questions. What else would you like to see? And maybe let's talk about what's our next step after you guys go back in and get this plan in there. What do you want to do next?
So Fred, is there a way to, and I don't know what the right term, but I guess to run a report, like say you do want to find across all of our plans, this particular strategic priority, where is it connected across our plans?
Yep.
Is there a way to see that visually?
Absolutely. I'm going to go in here, and this report is called a category tag report right here. So I'm going to click on that. So remember, we looked at we just have one thing assigned, so we'll just use that. And up here, I can say, do I want to look for documents, abstracts, services, goals, objectives, activities? I'm going to go ahead and say, I just want to look at the objectives that were tagged with host community conversation. And then I just go down and hit this little guy. It's going to go across and look at everything in there, and it's going to give me a report. So those are the objectives that we tagged. This is what we selected, strategic priority 2, host community conversations. So yeah, and by the way, it's also, and I'll go into greater detail later with this once we get it implemented, but you can go in and say, I want to see everything that is host community conversations and FAB reaccreditation measure 1.1. Now, obviously, we don't have those tags, so we get no results in here. But there might be places where you're looking for crossovers and things like that. So there's lots of different things you can do that way. So if you just say, I have under priority 2, I have maybe 5 different measures, reaccreditation measures that are associated with that. So I want to go down and say, I just want to see everything that's priority 2, but just reaccreditation measure 1.1. So lots of different things. And I can walk you through all the details on that when we get down to that point. But yeah, that's how you do it, is that category tag report.
Awesome. Thank you.
What else?
I think down the road, I'd like to see a bit about how we can share out some of our metrics publicly. I know we're not there at the moment, but I think that's something that would be of value down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. What we'll do is we'll have a little session on I'll tell you what, once you get your strategic plan in, assign your people to it, get everything up to date in there, we'll go back in and we'll do a quick little session on VMSG Public, which is exactly that. It's the ability to share the status of, in this case, maybe your entire strategic plan or any of the priorities in your strategic plan on a graphical basis on the VMSG Public. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, next step, if you guys would take the initiative to go in and finish out that strategic plan, get it assigned, then maybe we can just set up another session to review that and then go in and talk about some of the other things we would now be able to do with the categorization, the VMSG Public, different reporting, things along that line. Because there's a whole bunch of, once you get the plan assigned to people, we can do a lot of different things with that. We can go in and say, show us exactly how Kayla's doing against everything that she's been assigned, that sort of thing. So it's really nice to be able to dig into that information.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I will let you guys get back to saving the world. I will generate this video from this and post it up on YouTube and send you a link to it.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Fred, for your time, and this has been really helpful.
Good, good. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to pick up the phone and call.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.